Welcome to our presentation by Leo and James. Today we are going to be comparing and contrasting two artworks, The Human Condition by René Magritte and Las Meninas by Diego Velázquez.
I'm talking today about Las Meninas by Diego Velázquez, painted in 1656. This work depicts the Spanish royal family, particularly young Margaret Teresa, daughter of King Philip IV, with her maids and servants. What makes the work most interesting is how Velázquez enters the scene himself, standing alongside the royalty and dictating the role of the artist. Behind, a mirror reflects the king and queen, who are the figures at the center, but not technically present. Las Meninas is famous for its complexity, like these reflections, and visual Easter eggs that invite additional consideration. We chose this painting not just because it has such great technique, but because it changes the traditional role of the artist and plays with perspective in such a clever, special way.
The Human Condition by René Magritte is a surrealist oil-on canvas 100 by 81 centimeter painting. The painting depicts an easel in front of a window. The viewer initially sees the canvas as a transparent window, continuing the outside view, but on further examination, they realize that the window is in fact an easel, questioning reality and illusion. We have chosen this piece because it brilliantly explores perception and reality.
So now on to his early life. Diego Velázquez was born on June the 6th, 1599 in Seville, a city in southern Spain. Velázquez showed artistic promise from an early age and began his formal training at just 11 years old, becoming an apprentice to the painter Francisco Pacheco, who would later become a major influence in his life and career.
Born in 1898 in Lessines, Belgium, his mother committed suicide when he was 12 years old, and when they found her body in a river, her dress was covering her face, which is a motif found in many of René's works. His early exposure to various styles shaped his artistic vision and heavily influenced his later works.
Now on to some of his early influences. Diego Velázquez's master, Francisco Pacheco, was a respected artist and art theorist. While Pacheco followed more traditional styles, Velázquez began to explore more modern approaches, moving away from the classical norms of the time. He was especially influenced by the dramatic lighting and realism found in the works of Caravaggio, which helped shape his own distinctive style, characterized by strong contrast and lifelike detail.
Magritte was inspired by genres like Futurism, Impressionism, and Cubism, but Giorgio de Chirico's metaphysical paintings steered him towards Surrealism. His early works were Impressionism, but he later developed into a style of realistic objects in unusual contexts.
Now some historical and cultural context. Diego Velázquez lived and worked during the Spanish Golden Age, which marked a flourish of art and literature under the Habsburg rule. Spain at the time was a deeply Catholic society, and many artworks carried strong Christian themes and influences. Velázquez served as the court painter for King Philip IV, holding a prestigious and powerful position. Spanish culture is reflected in his paintings, especially in how figures like the king's daughter are surrounded by maids and attendees, emphasizing the strict social hierarchy and structure of the time.
Similar to the rest of Europe, Belgium was in a crisis, both financially, politically, and socially. Unemployment reached its peak in 1934. There was a rise of surrealism as a response to war trauma from the First World War. Surrealism explored dreamlike or illogical scenes and ideas and impressions of the subconscious mind.
So, some works around the same time. So, some of Diego Velázquez's most notable early works include Musical Trio, Old Women Frying Eggs, and Three Men at a Table. These paintings fall under the genre of bodegones, a Spanish style that focused on realistic depictions of everyday life and kitchen scenes. showcasing his incredible attention to detail, texture, and light. In these works, he also began experimenting with dramatic contrast of light and shadow techniques, which added depth and realism. These pieces laid the groundwork for the sophisticated style he would later use in royal portraits and historical scenes.
Cultural works around the same period includes Salvador Dali's painting The Persistence of Memory in 1931, which is a surrealist painting depicting clocks melting. There was a rise of jazz and surrealist cinema.
So, where the work was made. Las Meninas was painted in Cuarto del Príncipe, a room inside the Royal Alcazar of Madrid. This palace was the main residence of the Spanish royal family and the center of court life.
Magritte's studio was in Brussels, in Belgium, and he often painted indoors with focus on inside versus outside perspective. The human condition is based off the landscape and trees near his house. This setting enabled Magritte to focus philosophically on his painting.
Now some observational description. This image is mainly focused on Margaret Theresa, the daughter of King Philip, who's surrounded by her maids, her chaperone, her bodyguard, 2 dwarfs, and a dog. Just to the side of them, Velázquez draws himself working on a large canvas, and if you look closely inside the mirror, there is also a reflection of the king and queen, which makes it think that they are being the one painted, which challenges the viewer's perception. The brushwork is loosely applied.
The human condition depicts an easel aligned with a window with strong vertical and horizontal balance. It gives the illusion of continuity between the canvas and the background. But if you look very closely, you realize that it's actually an easel in front of a window that looks very similar. The brushwork is clean and controlled.
Now some deeper analysis of formal elements and techniques. In Las Meninas, Velázquez paints with a light, confident touch, using loose brushstrokes that suggest detail rather than define it. The fabric of Teresa's dress, the soft glow of her skin, and the light across the room are all built up in thin layers and subtle shifts in the tone. Some parts, like the dog or the background, are more roughly painted, which adds to the natural feel and draws the eye to the central figures instead.
Magritte's human condition has a central focus on the easel, with a framed window, creating symmetry. It uses natural daylight and neutral tones of green, blue, and grey dominance. The color continuity enhances illusion.
Now some symbolism and metaphors. In Las Meninas, the inclusion of wooden objects such as the possible paintbrush held by Velázquez, a spoon, or a wooden ladder in the background appears quite often in his paintings. Wood is often associated with qualities like strength and endurance, symbolizing the ability to withstand challenges. For Velázquez, the wooden paintbrush might serve as a metaphor for the strength and dedication required to earn his place among royalty.
The human condition has many metaphors that convey the message that Magritte is trying to put out. The canvas is a metaphor for perception and subjectivity, and the window shows the symbol of illusion as well as constructed reality. Clouds represent the tenuous and ever-changing nature and life, and embody the unknowable and the unattainable, carrying different meanings and emotions. They're associated with good luck, as cloud in Chinese is yun, which is a homonym for the Chinese character yun, or good fortune.
Now some themes and ideas. In Las Meninas, themes of perception, reality, and role of the artist appear. By including a mirror that reflects the king and queen, Velázquez plays with the viewer's perspective and blurs the line between subject and observer. The painting also questions artistic status, as Velázquez places himself among the royalty, asserting the painter's intellectual and social importance. At the same time, it reflects the structure and hierarchy of court life, with every figure carefully positioned in relation to the power they have.
The themes and ideas of the human condition include deception, political themes, and art and its limitations. Deception is the act of deceiving someone. The human condition highlights the difference between what is real in the painting and what isn't. It's hard to distinguish between which is which. The political themes are about manipulation and distortion of truth, which is very similar to political propaganda. The painting in the frame kind of shows how art cannot capture the entire image of the world, and Magritte's work talks about how art can't show the whole truth or image.
Now some narrative and storytelling. There is no narrative and storytelling in Las Meninas, but it gives us context about how Spanish court was like at the time, with the different placement of figures, and it also blurs the line between the viewer, who is the subject, and artist himself.
There is no traditional narrative in the human condition. The visual paradox tells us not a story as in a tale, but a story about perception and reality. The hidden meanings are about how we see the world. It challenges authority, sight, and realism.
Now some on time and space. In Las Meninas, it focuses on perspective, different from traditional technique. While Margaret Teresa appears to be the central figure, some art historians argue that the true subjects are actually the king and queen, whose presence dominates the viewer's line of sight through the mirror. This has led to the theory that the painting is a kind of double portrait, showing both the royal couple and their surroundings as they are being painted. Velázquez also uses strategic placement of figures throughout the composition to create a strong sense of depth, drawing the viewer's eyes through layers of space and making the scene feel more immersive and dynamic.
Time and space are used very cleverly in this painting, being that time and space lose meaning and are almost non-existent, which raises many questions like, what does this painting mean, and what does this picture represent? These questions are only possible if one sees the picture in its whole truth. Magritte says that there are no implied meaning to his paintings, so the meaning is up to the people that look at the painting. The canvas and window are perfectly aligned, confusing the foreground and background. The seamless transition tricks the eye.
The intent of Las Meninas is widely believed to be a statement on the role and status of the artist, as well as an exploration of perception and reality. Velázquez may have intended to elevate the status of the artist by placing himself within the scene, painting the royal family while also reflecting on the nature of representation and power dynamics of the Spanish court. The painting invites viewers to question the relationship between the subject, the viewer, and the artist, making it both a self-referential and symbolic work.
Magritte said, art should evoke mystery and challenge assumptions. This means that he thinks that art should have a lot of mystery surrounding it, with no clear meaning. The human condition is intended to disrupt how we accept visual truths. This painting about a painting may reflect distrust of initial appearances.
Now, some impact and influence. Las Meninas had a major impact in art, influencing artists like Monet and Picasso with its innovative use of perspective, light, and narrative. The painting remains a key reference in discussions of visual perception and an artistic identity.
The human condition has inspired contemporary surrealists and pop artists. Magritte had major influence on conceptual and postmodern art. This was a key surrealist work. It was a very philosophical work and a notable piece in the surrealist movement, contrasting emotional surrealists like Dali. It is referenced in films, advertisements, and album covers. The human condition and Las Meninas both play it with illusion and perception. Magritte hides reality behind an image that replaces it, while Velázquez includes a mirror and shows the king and queen, which suggests layers of viewing. Both paintings include an artwork within an artwork. Magritte shows a painting in front of a window, and Velázquez includes himself painting a canvas in the scene. Finally, they both ask what reality and art really are. Magritte is more of a philosophical and abstract, while Velázquez is more observational and timed to human experience.
Now, some differences. Las Meninas and the human condition differ in style and theme. Velázquez's Baroque painting uses realistic techniques to explore perception and reality and the role of the artist, blurring the line between the viewer and the subject. In contrast, Magritte's surrealist work presents a flat, paradoxical scene of a canvas within a canvas, challenging the nature of reality and representation. Both explore the relationship between art and reality, but Las Meninas does so through realism, while the human condition uses surrealism to question conception. Thank you for watching.